Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vinolia, and I'm the Marketing and Event Coordinator for ISCA. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for availing themselves for this session. As we can see, Prof Ravinder is back. So I'm going to welcome Prof Ravinder. I'm going to request everyone to please mute themselves.
So
can we kindly mute ourselves? Please, let's make sure that we respect the session so that we don't disrupt anything, please. Okay, thank you for that. I'm just going to take you throughout some housekeeping rules before Prof Ravinder take on the session. I'm going to request everyone to please mute themselves once you enter the session. Make sure you remain muted so that you don't disrupt anything. And secondly, I'm going to allow everyone that happens to have a question during the session to please write it in the chat box. But if you'd like to present your own question, make sure that you write it somewhere down, and then you will engage directly with the speaker once the speaker is done with the presentation. As you all know that today we do have our speaker, who is Prof Ravinder Rena. So we once had Prof Ravinder Rena during this year. So he wanted to share with us again with regards to this topic. So as you all know, Prof Ravinder is a profound academician and a distinguished scholar in economics, a writer, editor, advisor, motivational speaker, and public intellectual with over 30 years of teaching and research experience in Asia Pacific, Africa, and European continent. He has been an independent consultant. Sorry about that. He has been an independent consultant. Sorry, let's continue. He has been an independent consultant and training expert. Prof Rena is currently working as an honorary professor, sorry about that, of economics in DUT Business School, Faculty of Management Science, Durban University of Technology in Durban, South Africa. He also serves as an adjunct professor of economics for master's and doctorate programs at Monarch Business School, Monarch University, Hegenden, Zug in Switzerland. Prof Rena serves as an honorary country director, South Africa for the International Internship University. Further, he works as a visiting professor for many universities, notably the Sri University, Cuttack, India. He also serves as the Global President, Economic Affairs, A11 India, Sustainable Development Council. So I would like to take this opportunity and hand over to Professor Ravinder to introduce more about himself and take over on the session. Prof Ravinder, you are welcome, and you may now take over the platform. And thank you so much for making it possible during these load shedding moments. Thank you. Prof Ravinder.
Next, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. You can just take us through a brief of your introduction and then continue with the session. Thank you. Prof, unmute yourself. You are muted.
Colleagues, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, let me put it on the presentation slide. Well, can you see me and hear me well now?
Yes, Prof. If it happens
Okay.
that your network
Yes,
gives you
we can
problems,
hear
you can
you.
just exit the camera and then use only the audio.
Okay, that's fine. Let me see. Yes,
We can hear
colleagues,
you. Thank you.
colleagues, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning if there are any other time zones, or good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a proud privilege for me to be part of this research webinar series organized by the Africa Institute of Supply Chain Research. And I also thank the president, Professor Ambe Marcus, and we've been together, when the launching ceremony took place at UNISA maybe about 4.5 years ago. And of course, I've been regularly, part of this particular webinar series for several different topics on research design, sampling, and quantitative, qualitative, and so on and so forth. So today is a very special day. That is, we are talking about the writing papers and research articles from your own dissertation and thesis. That is the topic we have today. And of course, it is everybody, irrespective whether you are a PhD student or a master's student, you're a faculty member, or everyone, this topic is very important for us. Now, what we're going to do today is that I would like to give you some kind of details about what is dissertation and what is thesis. How do we differentiate those two? And then I will also take you to how to subtract or extract a kind of paper and article from that particular dissertation and the thesis. How many articles we can able to derive, if it is a PhD thesis or a DPhil thesis or maybe DBA thesis and maybe a master's dissertation. So we will also try to look into that. How many articles, what is the minimum, what is the maximum, and then what are the ingredients that we need to look at when we prepare the article? And what are the essential aspects of the titles that we need to cover? So those are the things that I would like to. And also there are certain other questions. Maybe somebody will ask me a question that whether a thesis is owned by you as a student, whether you got a copyright or university has got a copyright. And there are so many other questions probably our students and our audience would like to know. So I'll also touch on those questions. And I, as an editor with about 20 years experience, been the editor-in-chief of an international journal of education, economics, and development, which was my brainchild, and that I initiated probably in 2008. And that journal is being published by Indus Science. It is also indexed in Scopus, ABDC ranking, Australian Business Deans Council list, and also IBS's International Bibliography of Social Sciences ProQuest. So all these places it has been listed. I've been the founding editor-in-chief almost for a decade, and I also share some of my own experiences. Why, what I do as the editor-in-chief, what is my role, and how do we screen the articles? How do we probably try to encourage the scholars? So those are also some of the experiences I would like to share with you. In the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, let me just move on to the introductory part, the thesis and the dissertation. So this is still confusion for some of us here. We say in South Africa, for instance, a thesis is for PhD and dissertation for master's, MBA or MCOM or whichever we talk about, MSc. Whereas in, so because we follow the UK system or the British system, all the Commonwealth countries, maybe more than 50 countries in the world, they try to use this Commonwealth system where we say a thesis for us is a PhD and dissertation is for us is a master's document, master's research document. Whereas if you go to the other side of the world where America, they call the other way around, just they interchange. And there, the dissertation is a PhD and thesis is master's. So this is the difference I would like to unpack here. And of course, when your thesis is written, that it is for a specific purpose. And when you write a thesis, when you have your own topic, when you have your own problem statement, when you have your own objectives, hypothesis, and your own methodology, and probably the literature reviews and those things that you do, and then you collect the data with questionnaires, with whatever that you do, instruments, and then you try to analyze, and then you try to develop that. So this particular
Sorry,
scenario.
Prof, to interrupt you. Sorry, Prof, to interrupt
Yes.
you. Can you unshare your screen and try to share the presentation again? Because we can't see your presentation. We can only see the desktop.
Okay, that's fine. Can you to see it now, Vinolia?
Yes, you can now put it on a slide mode.
All right. I think it is clear now, Vinolia?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right. So I was trying to explain earlier that the difference between the thesis and the dissertation in American context, in British Commonwealth countries context, particularly in South Africa, India, and most of Nigeria and Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, and so on and so forth. So I'm trying to tell you that as part of our introduction, the thesis, you got a particular purpose. Why do you write the thesis? Why do you write a dissertation? And you got a specific audience, probably audience at your preliminary stage, maybe could be, or probably readers could be your own supervisor, or your own mentor, or your own probably guide, and whatever names that we call upon. And then we have a specific criteria for that, writing that particular thesis and dissertation, where we try to normally look at those audience. And once you complete that particular dissertation or the thesis, then you will be moving on to different other aspects. So here your purpose is that you need to comply with the rules and regulations of the institution where you are doing your research. And then accordingly, maybe it could be ethical clearance, it could be topic approval, it could be maybe giving colloquiums, particularly at the PhD level. You need to give colloquium at the proposal level. What is your proposal? What is your research problem? What your objectives are? What are your research questions? Whether your methodology is appropriate or not. So there is a DRC, Departmental Research Committee, or the Faculty Research Committee. They try to look at your things and they try to advise you whether that is doable, not doable, whether there is a element of a depth of research in that particular area or in that particular topic. So these are some of the things. This is your audience. This is your readers. So maybe the examiners on the other side also could be your readers. And then thereafter, once it is coming into the public domain in the repository, where most of the universities in South Africa, after the completion, and that's once you graduate with your master's or PhD, then most of the institutions, whether it is Northwest University, Durban University of Technology, UNISA, and University of Pretoria, UCT, all those institutions, Wits University, they try to put those documents on a repository. So repository means that everybody in the world, they can have an access of your document. So that is your audience. Now, the audience frame in the first phase is very limited, but once it is coming to the public domain, your audience are anywhere, everywhere in the world, anybody, whether they could be other researchers, other professors, whoever could able to read, they could able to probably, get access to your documents. Now, if we could able to look at the difference between the article and the dissertation. So in the dissertation, it could be sometimes I read as an examiner more than 200 PhDs and probably about 350 master's thesis across the globe for almost about 20, 25 years of my maybe as a probably senior academic. Now, while doing that, the biggest thesis I ever examined was about 1,200 pages approximately. And that is probably the highest amount of pages that I ever examined. They couldn't able to bind the thesis properly. They have to split into 3 different volumes actually. That's what they do. So it varies. The size of the thesis will vary. Some people, they may even do it for 120, 150 pages also for PhD document. The same thing, maybe 60 to 80 or 90 or 100 pages for the master's document. So the pages vary from institution to institution, from scholar to scholar, or even the supervisor also will vary. So that is the different aspect. Now, when you come to the article, you're not going to publish a probably 100-page article, actually. Nobody is going to publish your article if it is 100 pages. There could be some special professional journals. They publish sometimes as special issues, but 100-page article is absolutely not a healthy way of writing an article. It could be maximum about, we normally look at 3,000 words to as an editor-in-chief, as an editor, senior editor for many journals and editorial board member for many journals. The main idea is that if it's at least on an average about 3,000, 3,500 words, that could be the minimum amount of words. Maximum we can go, some journals they accept up to 10,000 words. So the average figure would be about 5,000 to 6,000 words. That would be the average figure. So that's where you can try to maybe develop your article. When you are developing your article, ladies and gentlemen, what are the important points that we like to take into account? So when we write an article, many people will not able to understand what is the difference between a thesis and dissertation, an article or a paper. So we need to understand that. Now, paper, it could be a research paper that you would like to present in a conference, let's say. It could be an international conference or a local conference. It could be a national level workshop, or it could be symposiums, wherever you would like to present. Then that would be the paper that you would like to prepare. And then research article is also a paper, actually. But the difference is that when you present a paper in a conference, we can call that as a paper. But when you prepare a book chapter, probably for an edited book or an article for a journal, that is a slight difference. Then the styles also will vary. It could be a reference style will vary. It could be the structural style also will vary. So the standard phenomena everywhere, wherever you go in the world, most of the journals, whether they are Web of Science, Clarivate, maybe database journals, or the Scopus Index journals, or we have South African DHGT Index journals also, and then the IBSS and so many other journals, Netherlands, and so on and so forth. Now, most of these journals, predominantly, they have 80%, 80 to 90% even, they have the similar structure. And the similar structure is basically, it could be maybe you are, there are 7 steps. Some people, they say 5-step formula. Some people, they say 7-step formula. But whichever formula we talk about, the first point is that your introduction and background to the article. And even the PhD thesis that you do or the master's dissertation that you do, by and large, we also start our first chapter is basically your introduction. An introduction comprises of what are the things that we normally write in as part of your introduction, background. Then you try to develop what is the purpose of this paper, thesis, what is the reason. And you also go on developing what is the research problem that you have, and what are the research questions that you have, what are the research objectives you have, or hypothesis you like to test upon. Then you develop maybe a bit of literature review, and then you develop a methodology to develop probably outline of your chapters, or sorry, the entire dissertation and thesis. It could be 5 chapters, 7 chapters, or 10 chapters. It depends upon how you wanted to structure your. And then at the end, we try to summarize. So that would be your introduction chapter everywhere in the world, whether it could be Botswana, or it could be Zimbabwe, or it could be Malawi, or any Southern African, any part of USA or Australia. So it is the same scenario that's the standard phenomenon. Now, as part of that, in article, what we are doing is that what is the difference that we are doing here is that we also try to cover a basic information pertaining to how do you introduce the topic. what you want to tell the audience, actually, the readers that maybe different readers. They could be undergraduate students, they could be postgraduate students, they could be researchers, or they could be other policymakers and any other company experts. So all these people would like to consult your document. When you do that, you summarize it. If it is your first chapter, sometimes you may go up to 15 to 30 pages, but your article itself should be 15 to 30 pages. So you cannot go, maybe you can write probably 1 page or 1.5 page as part of your introduction and the background. And then you come down to problem statement. You can define the problem statement in your thesis and dissertation, maybe a page or probably 1.5 pages with the relevant references, or probably any other cited works that so and so said so, and I am doing this and that. So you can try to interact with the literature that is available. But here in the problem statement, you're not going to too much discuss about why you see that as a problem. What is the importance of that problem actually? And what you wanted to do with that problem? What methods and methodology that you would like to adopt to resolve that problem? Who would be your focused people that would like to get benefit out of this particular research? So that is how you just try to summarize, maybe in about 3 to 5 lines. That would be your problem statement. Thereafter, then you can talk about your objectives. If you're a PhD student, you may have 4 or 6 objectives. If you're a master's student, you may have 2 or 3 objectives. But here in the article, you are not supposed to have 3, 4, 5 different objectives, actually, questions you'd like to address. So you need to summarize, you need to try to bring them down to 1 or 2. That would be the better thing. That is why the other question comes here, ladies and gentlemen, where we would like to, how many articles we can publish. So of course, we're going to have an interaction session, maybe at the end of my presentation, that how many articles a PhD student can publish from his PhD, and how many articles a master's student can publish. So we will talk about that at that point of stage. I'll also tell you that every objective of your, or every research question of your document and your research will become an article actually. So we will talk about that a bit later. So as you can see this slide, and you are just trying to look at the introduction background, very simple. That is why we always remember that a principle of KISS is very important in research. The KISS principle is that it's not giving kiss to somebody, to your daughter or to your child or to any other, your father or mother, but it is basically K for keep it, I for it. So keep it simple and short. That is what is KISS here. So whatever you do in the article format, you are trying to follow that particular KISS principle. Now, when you are doing that, then you try to, if you wanted to say that where is your face, you have to say this is your face. You cannot say like this and this is my face, or you turn your face some other direction and you make few rounds and say that this is my face. You are not going to rotate actually. Straightforward and in a very simple language, but in an effective language, you are going to say, this is my face. This is what I want to do. And that is what needs to be addressed in your first part of your article. So then you have the methodology. You may have a methodology as a chapter where you are trying to discuss about what is research philosophy, what is research design, what is oncology, and what is epistemology, and what is all other research philosophy related things. You're not going to discuss that. If you really conduct a study with the primary data or the secondary data, just mention in probably a small paragraph, maybe half a page, nothing more than that. So that is the kind of methodology you develop, and then you can try to go to your findings. You may have probably 100 or 500 findings there in your PhD thesis. You're not going to take every finding. Some of the important findings that relate to that particular objective or research question you would like to address. So only those things you need to try to filter it. You need to extract it, and then try to connect it and put it in a systematic order, and you should see the logical flow, the coherence from one paragraph to another paragraph. So that would be basically, so meaning that first part we are trying to do introduction, And as part of the introduction, you got maybe a bit of problem statement, objective, or the question. And then in the second part, we say in the thesis, we say that it is literature review. That would be mostly, majority cases, it is our second chapter. So instead of having second chapter here in the article or in the paper, we are going to have a section that is a section 2, that is a literature review or review of literature, whatever you call it, or the conceptual framework, whatsoever you call it. So then theoretical underpinning. So these are the terms that we use normally, but let us call it as blindly a literature review. And then that is your section 2. In section 3, when you come down further, then you could able to talk about the methods and the materials. What are the sources of your data actually? Whether you consulted Department of Industry and Trade, or you consulted South African Reserve Bank, or you consulted Stats SA, or you consulted maybe Department of Agriculture, or whichever or Department of Labor, whichever. So you are going to mention, if it is a secondary data source, these are the sources, these are the documents that you consulted. And then you are going to mention that, okay, these are the specific documents if there is any income and expenditure survey and national income dynamics survey. So those are some of the important documents also you can able to state. That is your material actually. That is your data that's coming from. That is the information that you are trying to depend upon. So that is why that is very important, ladies and gentlemen, that you need to mention the materials where you wanted to obtain the data from. Whether you wanted to have a primary data and how you have the primary data, how many people that you probably contacted, and those are the things, that sample that you have, the population that you have, you also will state about it. The same thing what we did at the thesis and dissertation, we are also trying to summarize it. So if we develop a chapter for 30 pages or 40 pages in our thesis, here we are going to put about maybe 100 to probably 150 to 200 words, between 100 to 200 words. That is where we try to summarize the method and material. Whether you have econometric techniques or maybe you have any regression or correlation, or we have so many other techniques like we have SIM modeling where we have structural equation modeling that in order to correlate between two variables and how to measure the impact that has been created. So those are the things that have been, we can also summarize that methods and material in a very simple and crystal clear format. Then you come to the results and discussion or analysis, whichever they may say, and with results and discussion, let's put it in that way. And we also use the same terminology in our dissertation also. Even in the article, we do the same thing. Now, at the end, we would again go back to that would be your results and discussion would be your fourth section. And then in your fifth section, ladies and gentlemen, that we will try to summarize. What we summarize is basically, it is like our conclusion or concluding remarks, what we want to conclude with. And after the conclusion, if you would like to mention any recommendations or policy implications you would like to share as part of your research, then you can also able to summarize those policy implications, brief and effective. So this is the kind of points that we would like to cover as part of our article. Now, at the end, of course, cites or works cited or references that are being given, but don't write bibliography there. Sometimes people confuse with bibliography that have the references. Bibliography is something that even you read, but you didn't cite in your master's or PhD, you can still cover, you can put some of those, maybe some English like grammar related document you consulted, and a few other maybe fictions or non-fictions you consulted that was interesting to you, that was also a basis for your idea development. Maybe you can also take them as part of your bibliography. But references that works, you really cite them as part of your textual or your contextual references that you cite, you need to put them in the reference list. So that is why these are the 7 ingredients, the 7 steps that you need to take into account. That's where you need to look into those 7 aspects, starting from your introduction background until the references. That's what you need to do. So this is your article format. whether it is South African Journal of Economic Research or Small Business Development, whichever journal you talk about, all those people, they by and large follow the same structures. When it comes to abstract is an important, it's like index. When somebody looks at Professor Ambe Marcus, how he looks like, then they look at the face. So the abstract is like a face here. In the abstract, whatever you've been discussing in the entire article, you also been trying to summarize in that 100, 150 words. So that is an important art of writing an abstract. Many of our scholars, unfortunately, many of our PhD, even some of our professors also, they do not understand the technicality of writing an abstract. That is why if you look at journals like we have maybe Emerald journals, we have different other journals, maybe Elsevier journals and probably several other Indavi journals and so on and so forth. So they do specify that you need to write what is the purpose of your article. You need to highlight the purpose and write maybe in 2 or 3 lines. And then you need to go and you mention that after that, if there is an objective, you put the objective, or if there is no objective, then you put method and material. Then you talk about the what are the results that you have. And then you talk about the novelty or the original contribution of your research. What is the implication of your research? So that is how those 5 small headings, you don't need to divide them into different paragraphs, but in one kind of paragraph that you prepare an abstract in about 100 or 150 or 200 words, you need to summarize those things. So that is an important element in writing an abstract of your article or your paper. Then there are also some journals, particularly economics related, business related, and probably statistical related, and some of the policy oriented related journals. They also ask us to have some JEL codes. What is this JEL codes? We all know, ladies and gentlemen, it's Journal of Economic Literature, and which is published by, of course, the American Economic Association is the one which probably, they maintain the database. They also have the kind of latest for everything. If it is education, if it is financing, if it is international finance, or if it is banking regulation, or if it is maybe any kind of data that you would like to talk about, statistical regression techniques and so on and so forth, panel data and things like that. For everything, we have codes. You can just browse. I'm sure that most of you know about the JEL codes, but in case if you don't know, just try to get the JEL codes, appropriate JEL codes. But based upon don't put 10 JEL codes, maybe 2 to 5 is enough. So I also noticed that instead of putting the JEL codes, some of the people, they used to put the words there, and they put JEL code and they put the words. That is not correct. The keyword is different and the JEL code is different. Remember that. So JEL codes, you just Google it and you go to the American Economic Association website, and there's a list of, there's a document, or you can even browse through in the internet itself. Then you go, if there are appropriate words, just look at your keywords. Look at what is the essence of your article and your paper. Then you try to take those 2, 3, or 4 JEL codes, C20 or C37 or F40 or F57, whatever. Then you put those codes, and then that is what needs to be done. So this is basically a structure of the article internationally. Wherever we go, we do that. Now, the other issues, because of interest of time, I think, Vinodia, how much time do I have? Maybe another 15, 20 minutes?
Prof, I can give you another 20 minutes since you had network issues.
Okay, dear, no problem. Until the network, probably, my battery is complete, and then we will go with that. Yes, so there are so many other important points that we need to touch upon here, that now plagiarism is also one of the important key here. It so happened that you submitted your master or PhD, you graduated, and you wanted to write an article. Probably you already write an article, you submitted before you submit your master PhD. Now the challenge comes here is plagiarism. Plagiarism is going to come from your own document, actually, because the point of the matter is that here, ladies and gentlemen, your document is already reposited by your institution. And now your article is in the pipeline. Sometimes they take 1 year, 2 years, or 1.5 years, 6 months, whatever. Now, when they put your document, your PhD document in the repository, now you don't have any choice. When the editor checks the plagiarism, it shows 90% because all the article that you extracted, that you developed, that is from your own thesis. So it will say that students' papers from UNISA, or students' paper from the Durban University of Technology, student papers from University of Western Cape. So that's what happens actually. Even if you go into the details of that, who is that student, then you can still find that it is you and your supervisor, basically. Now, how to deal with that issue actually? That's why I put here repository embargo. For instance, one of my PhD students who graduated last year and is a chief director working in Gauteng government. And that gentleman, we write an article probably about 1.5 years ago. And then it came to the final stage. And then the editor sent us a message that, no, your plagiarism is too high. It's 96%. Then when we look at the matter, of course, it is our own document. And my student and myself, we work together. And then we do not know how to address because the embargo procedures we also do not know. Then we found out the procedure. We approached the university and we requested our people who are dealing with the repository, documentation, and we told them that kindly put embargo on the document. Then they took almost a week, and then they tried to put the embargo. Embargo is nothing but they try to remove your document from the public domain. And even if the editor puts that in the plagiarism check, whether it is done it in any other document, authentic, and then they could able to trace out that no, it is the original paper. So this is the kind of challenges that you could able to face, but it is doable, and as long as it's your work, you can still do it, and that is absolutely fine, and then nobody can object it. So this is one of the important points that all of us will face, whether they are supervisors or the students at every level we keep facing. So then the other point is that how many articles one can able to write. If it is a PhD, it all depends. One of my other PhD student is about to complete now on the business intelligence and artificial intelligence. That is the area he is working upon. Probably he writes maybe about 350 pages document. So we already could able to extract 4 articles. We're still trying to extract 2 more articles actually. So that means 6 articles. And the PhD student that I just mentioned to you, a minute ago or so, that PhD student, and we extracted 4 articles actually from his PhD. So when we extract articles, that means we can extract 2 articles from your PhD. You can extract up to 5 or 6 articles. It depends upon the depth and the depth of your own research, how much bulk it is, whether the theme is different. You cannot keep publishing the same article that, whatever you published in the first article, then the portion of that you publish again in the second, third, fourth article. That is not allowed again. That will also create self-plagiarism. So we need to avoid that. Therefore, the number of articles, ladies and gentlemen, that you could also publish, it could be 2 or it could be 5. And if it is a master's, maybe 1 or 2 would also be advisable. Maybe you can go up to 3. So this is absolutely the size of the article that you can extract from your PhD. Now, who owns your PhD thesis? Of course, in South African institutions, mostly that they say that it is a copyright belongs to the university. Even the we supervisors, mentors, we don't have any kind of authority. You as a student, you worked hard throughout your 3 years or 5 years or 6 years of your life that you devoted for this particular research. But sometimes they say that no, copyright belongs to the institution. But it differs from South Africa and other. For instance, US example, they say that copyright belongs to the students himself. But student can give the permission, maybe to the university or to any other publishers, maybe if it is ProQuest or it could be any other person would like to have. It's a non-exclusive license they can able to distribute. They can try to put it in the public domain and without having any kind of copyright issues and so on and so forth. But if somebody wanted to use that document, and of course the permission needs to be taken. So that is about the thesis. whether you own, though it is your own hard work, but fortunately or unfortunately, you don't own here. But in America and few other countries, it is your hard work and you own. Just like, in some of the articles, they say that copyright belongs to the authors. Some they say the copyright belongs to the publishers. So it all differs. The same token here that your document belongs to the university. In most of the institutions in South Africa, but in other world, that is what you own the copyright. So of course, that's what I'm telling about. And then we have got the issue here. The journal articles, as I just explained to you in my previous engagement, that this is what abstract introduction methods, materials, results, discussion, and of course, conclusion is very important, that you need to conclude, you need to formally mention. So this is what we already covered about. The thesis and the journal is not going to be the same. Some people, they say that although we will try to summarize it, we try to briefly state what is mentioned in the thesis, what is mentioned in the dissertation, we try to summarize it in an abstract format in the journal article, but they are also different. Now, the other question comes here, that whether your PhD thesis or your master document, can it be used as a reference? Or only the journal article should be used as a reference? Of course, anything that you can use, even if it's a WhatsApp note, even if it's a YouTube video, or even if it's a newspaper or magazine or any kind of article or anything that you find, even BBC or CNN or video clips, you can still use them as references. Nobody can stop you. So that is your document, so-and-so is the so-and-so topic and so-and-so year, and submitted for the award of so-and-so degree to the so-and-so university. That's how you need to summarize. That is also a valuable research document, actually. So, and now the question arises here, whether it is a journal has got more visibility, and in terms of the H-index and in terms of the Google citations, or maybe probably we have ResearchGate citations and so many other citations. The question arises here is that which is the best one? You have a thesis, that is the kind of umbrella, and now you have a few articles. So article visibility will be more. Sometimes thesis, nobody would like to go through your 250 or 500-page document. Nobody is willing to go through it. But if it is an article with the latest references, and your article is crystal clear that you would like to explain what you want to explain about that issue, then that is more having a visibility. So those are the articles related, because there's so much I need to cover, and in the interest of time, probably let me just really quickly move on. Do master's thesis get published is also another question. Sometimes PhD thesis, it all depends. If you wish to, if your work is good enough, quality enough, you can always publish in the form of a book, in the form of a monograph, in the form of any other research document. You can able to publish that. People always think about whether master's dissertation is also can be publishable or not publishable. They also talk about that. So therefore, the answer would be yes, you can publish even in the master degree also. Now, then the other point is that the publications that you have, the literature that you have, so it is basically whatever that you wanted to differentiate between the literature that you have, fiction, non-fiction, and particularly we all take the facts and figures and arguments, and we try to link up with our findings with that of the findings of other researchers. That is how we try to develop our argument. So then editor, of course, editors play a role while you are writing a thesis, and when you are writing an article also, editors play an important role. But doesn't mean that an editor can hold any copyright, or editor can hold any other right, or editor wants to be one of the co-authors in your journal article. It all depends upon how you try to agree with each other, and then that is probably nobody can stop it. Dissertations and thesis may be considered as scholarly sources. That is why I'm telling you that basically you need to focus most of the journal articles that are more credible journal articles. Now, just to give you a summary, we have got so many journals that are being published across the globe. About thousands and thousands of journals. Even Web of Science got more than 30,000 journal database. where we got Scopus also, we got 28,000 database. So there are so many journals are there. But remember that all the journals are not the same. We need to look at the predatory journals. We need to look at the quality journals. We need to focus on the quality journals. But presumably, all the Scopus intellectual journals, they're not a good journals as such. But unfortunately, because we get the credit if you publish in the Scopus, so we move with that. So with that, one must be careful about the journals, ladies and gentlemen. And then, of course, whether you can publish the article and get your PhD, or whether you don't publish the article, you still get PhD. For example, when I did PhD more than 2 decades ago, that was not a mandatory that time. Maybe 20, 25 years ago, that was not mandatory whether you are supposed to publish or not. It depends upon individuals' interest. Publish, some of them, they don't publish at all, but we still allowed to get paid. But every university in the world, they are making it mandatory that you need to publish at least 1 article or 2 articles or whatever articles before you graduate. So these are the things. And then one can ask a question that what should be the H index and the I10 index as per the Google citation. If you get 1 or 2 citations, probably if that is there as a PhD student, that is a big achievement for you. You will be happy. So with this few words, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you everybody. And also I would like to mention one important message here that I think you all will be knowing, you will be following the mass media for the past few weeks, what is happening. Now, Rishi Sunak became the Prime Minister of UK. There is an argument, there is a kind of, analogy, there is a kind of discussion going on around the world. Indians say that Rishi Sunak is our country origin person, is an Indian origin person because his grandfathers, they were in India before the partition of India, actually. Before 1947, the grandfathers and parents of Rishi Sunak, they were based in India. It is undivided India. At that time, Pakistan is also part of that. Now, Pakistan claimed that, no, it is the Rishi belongs to us because of the fact that his grandfather is indeed born in one of the areas of Pakistan. So the Pakistanis argue, Indians argue on the other side. Now, the other important point, South Africans also argue because Usha, a mother of Rishi, she was born here in South Africa. So they say that no, Rishi belongs to us. Now, then the other interesting scenario is that Kenyans also, they say that no, his father, Rishi's father, he was born in Kenya itself. Although maybe the British, the parents, the grandparents of Rishi were there in British, but they come to Kenya, they also do some business and work. So while they were working there, Rishi's father was born in Kenya. Now, these are the discussions that are having. Now, America is also saying that no, Rishi belongs to us. Rishi is the son-in-law of America because the wife of Rishi, although she's born for the Indian parents, Mr. Murthy, who is the co-founder of the Infosys, but ultimately she's an American national, and therefore Rishi is our son-in-law. India also may claim that no, Rishi is our son-in-law because the father-in-law of Rishi is coming from India. So these are the arguments. Now, 5 countries that are saying that America one side, Kenya, South Africa, Pakistan, India, they're all saying one thing that no, Rishi belongs to us. The origin of Rishi starts from our country. But Britishers will say that no matter whatever the story it is, Rishi was born and brought up in UK, so he's absolutely a British national. And then he born in Southampton, so therefore he's a British citizen and is a British man. He's nothing to do with your country. The argument here, why I'm saying this important analogy here, ladies and gentlemen, is that, let me just unshare, why I'm saying this, this kind of conclusion here is that basically, if you do a credible research, if you could able to, if you could able to do the credible research and you are a successful person, everybody want to create a kind of relationship with you. No matter whether they know you or they do not know you, everybody want to become your relative, your friend, and your supporter. And they want to meet with you, they wanted to work with you. Now, Rishi Sunak at this young age of 40 years, I'm 52, 53 now, and probably Rishi is about 12, 13 years younger to me, but he already became Prime Minister of one of the powerful economies and countries in the world. Now, all these countries, of course, the rest of the world, 200 countries also, they wanted to collaborate with Rishi because he is successful. Now, if you are not successful, you are trying to do research, probably not doing a proper research, you copy paste and do some kind of, whatever simple way, nobody bothers about your research. And basically, they will always they will treat you as an orphan. If there's an orphan that is you found on the street, nobody wanted to associate with that orphan. So in the same way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're when you are successful, when you write a very good article and publish in a good journal, everybody wanted to associate with you. Everybody wanted to appreciate and they wanted to try to have co-authorship with you. But if your article is not good enough, then people, they isolate with you. They don't want to collaborate with you. So with these few remarks, research is always a journey. It's not an end with your PhD and master's or article writing, but it is a journey and it should continue throughout your life, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Amitya Kumar Sen, who is the first Nobel laureate, he published probably number of articles, maybe 1,000 articles he published, and his citations are more than 350,000 per citation that he has got. And if he has got citations, maybe he's 90 years of old gentleman, one day he passes away, then he will be still remembered. 65, 70 years ago, Einstein passed away. We still remember Einstein through his scholarly contribution. So therefore, I always would like to encourage every one of you, whether they are professors and students, you please try to do the credible research and publish the quality articles. You will be always remembered. Even we die, one day I will be dying and every one of us will be dying, but our scholarly works will make us alive. With this, I would like to thank the organizers, Professor Ravinder Marcus, the president of ISCA, and also Vinolia and other staff members of the ISCA, and all other people who are present here. Thank you one and all for listening patiently. And if you got any questions, clarifications, you're welcome, and we'll discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof Ravinder, for the insightful presentation that you just made. I would just like to, before we continue with the questions from the chat box, I would like to let everyone know that the presentation slides are not available. So for any reference, you can just go to our social media platforms and download this recording, or just view it online and then use it as your reference. And to continue with the questions, we do have a question from Mr. Paul, which says, how do you solve the problem of plagiarism in scholarly works?
Okay. Right. Should I answer the question, Vinolia?
Yes, or maybe you wanted me to present all the questions and then you answer at once, okay. Or should
That's
I?
Also fine. No problem. We can take one more or two more questions.
Okay, and the second question says, how does our literature review come into use during article writing? How do we escape from predatory journals? That is the second question.
Okay.
Okay,
Should
you
I
can just answer the
two, then, okay,
yes.
Let me quickly address these two, and then we'll move to the other questions. Well, thank you for that question. Indeed, that is a very, very important, area, how to, mitigate the plagiarism, because plagiarism is one of the academic dishonesty, and we must be very careful. All institutions across the globe, they don't have a tolerance for that plagiarism. Of course, we are kind enough to, in South Africa, we allow up to 15 to 20%, some of the institutions 10%, but at least up to 20% we allow. But now how to reduce that plagiarism? It is always better you read 5 times, 10 times the same content that you would like to read and try to write it in your own words. And then there is always, you never go wrong when you use your brain. If you don't use your brain, if you just find the easy shortcut methods, you copy, paste, and then try to interact, that would be difficult. So that is the best thing. And you need to paraphrase, but paraphrasing and also we are just putting word here and there, we are using synonyms here and there, But the best method is that try to write, give the credit, because the idea is coming from a particular person. Try to give credit as much as you can to the other person. That is why you become a good researcher. If you think that you are, no, nobody is there, I'm the only researcher in this globe, and then I can only write from my mind, then it is not a research actually. It will be opinion-based paper. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that you can paraphrase it, you can try to read that 2 or 3 times, understand it, and put it in your own perspectives by taking the same theme actually, not losing the ground reality of the theme. Then you give the credit to that person, then you will never go wrong. You will be a best writer. So this is how we learned. Of course, I come from a regional media that was up to my bachelor degree. I was studying in Telugu actually. Telugu is that is my mother tongue. And I tried to, develop. I didn't know how are you, who are you, what is your name. I don't know nothing. I don't know anything about those simple things. But English is not our mother tongue, but we need to learn. We need to practice. There's nothing is impossible in this world. When there is a will, where there is a will, there is a way. You will definitely learn. And the Indians, for instance, the Indians beat Englishmen in English language. The Chinese men beat Englishmen in English also. If you go to Oxford University or Harvard University or maybe Cambridge University, the people, those who are topping in the English language, they're not British people, they're not American people, they are all come from Africa or from Asia. So that is one thing about the plagiarism. The other question is that predatory journals, there are so many predatory journals that are coming up. So hundreds and hundreds of journals that are coming up. There is a website, I think you can also Google it. They list out the predatory journals actually. The journal that they charge the money, that is a little bit, charge the money without having, some journals they charge the money, but they still maintain the quality of paper, quality of the research. But some of the journals, they take the money, whatever rubbish that you write, they still publish. That is a predatory journal actually. So it is difficult, but you can go to that website. I think I forgot the name. You could able to find Joe, whatever the website, and then you could able to find out the hundreds and hundreds of journals, maybe about 2,000 journals also, they are predatory journals actually. So stay away from those journals. Even if you don't find any other article, then you could able to quote, there's nothing wrong, but when you are quoting, whether that particular research is correct or not, if you could able to find the original source of that research, rather go to the original source of research, quote that original source, than quoting the predatory journals. I think I answered that question. Are there any other questions, Vinolia?
No, there are no more questions. It's just comments. And I would just like to open the platform for anyone who would like to ask you a question directly. They can just take themselves off mute and ask you directly whatever question they have in mind.
Absolutely.
Mr. Paul, I can see your hand is up. You can just unmute yourself and ask whatever question that you might be having.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to thank Professor Ravinder for this insightful presentation. And I have listened keenly to the presentation, and I love the presentation. Now, as a master's student, and I love research work. Then, during the course of the presentation, we use many literature to that we review. Then, sir, Prof, how do we put our literature review in use during our article writing? Thank you, sir.
Paul, you're asking how do we put the literature review to article writing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul, for that question. Ladies and gentlemen, indeed, the literature review is a kind of direction that it is trying to give us what is the research that was carried out, what is the research that you are going to carry out, and how you're going to fill that gap actually. So you cannot able to, because so much millions and millions of documents or billions of documents are being written and available in the public domain. Every document that you see on entrepreneurship or microfinance or supply chain management or whatever the research that you would like to do is not going to helpful for you. That is where you need to narrow it down. When you narrow it down, you need to try to create a circle that this is my circle, this is what I'm going to do. Now, when you do that, it is always better, at least 5 years old journals or the latest publications you would like to consult with. That is always appropriate. You don't consult now. Adam Smith has written a book, Wealth of Nations, in 1776. So 1776, nobody in even America was not being born, and none of us been born. But we still refer to the seminal work of Adam Smith. We still consider him, we give him a credit as father of economics. James Keynes wrote a book, The Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, in 1936 he published. So those are the seminal works. We still can able to cite them, there's no problem. But that could be only 15 to 20% of the works you try to cover the older versions. But the latest versions, maybe 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, up 2022, if you could able to cite these latest references, that would create a value to your research, because you are not only following the previous old trends or old literature, but also you're linking up with the existing current literature. So that is why it is better, we always advise our students at the master's and PhD that they need to consult at least 5 years old publications. I hope I answered your question, Pal.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you. There's another
Okay,
hand.
Mr. Panya.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Vinolia. And thank you so much, Professor Ravinder. I've read much of your work. I like the simplicity in your work that makes them really understandable to students. Again, thank you for accepting to give us some lectures today concerning writing of research papers from your thesis. I think I will say I'm one of the most lucky people to have had this lesson today, or this presentation. I started publishing, actually writing articles out of my PhD thesis, and at the same time publishing. I've successfully published 2. My approach was that I use my research objectives. Of course, each and every research objective becomes my article. Now, I've done that, but not with my supervisors for the thesis. So I'm asking, I've done this with the other supervisors in those different areas. One that I think are probably gurus in that particular area. Is there a problem in that, in having to publish with other supervisors rather than your normal supervisors, the ones that you had for your thesis? That is one. Then 2, when are you supposed to be publishing this? Because remember, my thesis has not been published, but I'm publishing articles out of my thesis. So will this not jeopardize my thesis in terms of it's already out there, components of my thesis is already out there, people are reading it, I publish it. Will it not water down my thesis? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Panya Kennedy, for those questions and the kind words. Well, to address your first question, that even my own students, probably I might have produced more than 60 students for masters and PhD in my career so far. I don't have any problem personally that if my student find somebody who is having a deeper insight in the area that we are researching together. I may not have, for instance, I'm not an expert in supply chain as such. If my student publish something, or if my student is working, and if you publish an article with Professor Ambe Marcus, I'll be very happy. Because ultimately, the work of the student should come to the limelight, and he has to disseminate and share his knowledge and wisdom with other fellow researchers. So if that particular expert or guru that can add some value to my student work, and that is a blessing actually. So it is not about the name, it is about the quality contribution of the research. But many of the researchers, probably research supervisors and the mentors, guides, they have some problems because everybody should be broad-minded, but unfortunately, human relationships are always different. So we are not having the 5 fingers are not equal to each other, but when we bend these 5 fingers, then they look equal to each other. So therefore, we are not perfect people as such. We are a student, whether I'm a professor with almost 30 years experience or more than 30 years experience, doesn't matter that I know everything. I'm a super human being, absolutely not. So we learn from each other. And I always tell my students that I also learn from my students, that it is not that my students are only learning from me, but I always are every supervisor, every fellow human being, we always learn from every human being that we meet, talk, that we do things together. So it differs. There could be some supervisors, I know there are so many cases that I've seen in my own experience that they disagree. Or they may say that, okay, if you want to add that expert as a supervisor, one of the co-authors, you can add, but I must be also there as the author. So those are some of the kind of, but there's nothing wrong if a PhD, because PhD is your work. We as a supervisors and mentors, we are here only to guide you. Go this direction, you find this and you find that. That is all we are doing actually. So mentorship, guideship, that's all we are doing. It is you are passing through the journey. You are trying to explore, you are trying to face the difficulties and challenges, and you are trying to solve the problems, actually, not me. But I personally don't have a problem, but there are people, but you need to negotiate because sometimes supervisors will be disappointed. They may be heartbroken that, hey, my student is not adding my name there, he's adding somebody else's name. But you need to be a bit diplomatic and try to, solve the issues peacefully. But otherwise, any supervisor in the whole world, they should allow the student to have, because it is your work. We are here only to support and guide you. That is the answer for your first question. And the second question, I think, can you just repeat that, Panya? I think I lost it. Maybe just give me a hint so that I can try to.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. My second question was, when do you publish?
Yes.
Because
yes. Now I got it. Yeah, got it. Thank you very much. Yeah. Now the challenge is that, like I was telling my own experience, more than 2.5 decades ago, that was not the scenario. But now you have to publish. There are many cases at many universities, including Stellenbosch University or Northwest, or most of the universities across South Africa. They also have 5 or 6 articles you publish. You compile them in the form of a thesis. You submit and you get your PhD degree. So the work is already out. It's already publishable. But now it's like whether the chicken is born, the egg is born, or the chicken is born. So that is the kind of scenario here. But it doesn't matter. Now the challenge is only, I was telling about the repository issues, the plagiarism issues, where it is self-plagiarism. That is the only thing that you need to address, but you are allowed. By the universities, they don't have a problem. They don't have any problem. And supervisors, they don't have a problem. So you can publish. When you wanted to start your journey, maybe in 2023, and first part of 2023, you publish an article based upon the preliminary work that you do with the conceptual framework and things like that. Maybe on methodology, you publish another. Maybe when you progress with the results and discussion, you publish a couple of others. So that's how you progress. You publish from time to time as you progress. I hope does that question, Kennedy?
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. Asante.
You're welcome. I can see another hand, Mutapela. Please go ahead. Is the old hand or the new hand? And please go ahead with your question. You can unmute yourself and ask the question here.
Thank you, Prof. My question is on the objectives of the research. I heard you mention that for a master's student, it's good to have up to 3 objectives, and for a PhD starting from 4. So I just want to check if does it really matter, because I was busy with my proposal and developed 2 objectives for a PhD proposal. So will that work against me? And my second question is a follow-up on your answer that you provided to Paul's questions regarding the sources that you're going to be using. Yes, I agree that it is good to use at least up to 5 years back. However, I just want to find out does it matter if on the part of your methodology, in explaining your methodology approach, does it matter if you can use maybe 7-10 years sources? Will it lower the standard of your research? Because I believe that the methodology doesn't evolve much as the topic that you will be conducting a research on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mozaki, for those questions. Indeed, if you look at the first, the last part of your question, that you're saying whether if it is 5 years or 7 years or 10 years old, doesn't matter. You can still refer. We are not restricting you. We are not asking you to completely stay away from the old works. Even if Magna Carta is the first, it's like a Bible for the legal document. All the laws, maybe labor laws or criminal laws and civil laws, they have been developed from that Magna Carta. Magna Carta was published probably 1215. You can imagine that more than 800 years ago. You can still refer Magna Carta. There's nothing wrong in it. You can, like I said, 20% of the references, if you can go. And majority of them, in normal cases, what is happening is that I read a lot of PhDs and masters while I'm examining, also do the supervising. But students, they try to take the older works and they ignore the newer ones. So that is the kind of trend where we want to connect with the old with the new and new with the old and try to identify the gap. That is what is important, actually. And in the first part of your question, Mozaki, can you just give me a hint, please?
It was regarding the objectives.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Objectives, I was telling you that it would be ideal. See, there are so many cases. There was one PhD thesis that I examined a couple of months ago. That student has got 12 objectives and 12 research questions, and maybe 25 hypotheses actually. So at the end, what happens is that you got too many objectives and too little focus. So we want you as a student, as a research student, that you take 2 or 3 objectives, but you try to address those objectives and question properly. Now, for your PhD work, having 2 objectives would be too little, unless and otherwise you have the primary objective, which is the basic that encompasses the sub-objectives or kind of thing, then there's no problem with that. But at the PhD level, you must be mindful that, Mozaki, at least you should have 4 objectives or 5 objectives is ideal. And while you are preparing objectives, I also wanted to share with all our student colleagues here that please be mindful when you write the objective, don't write identify, don't write list out, don't write simple words like to identify or to analyze the challenges. Don't write like that. Try to use the Bloom's taxonomy. A Bloom's taxonomy always tells you that there are lower order thinking skills, there are higher order thinking skills. In the lower order thinking skills, you have reading, understanding, analyzing, that is the lower level. At PhD and master level, you are already have it at NQF level 9 and 10. You cannot have that reading, understanding, and analyzing thing. You need to be more than that. So maybe you can synthesize it. You can try to probably examine it. You can try to create it. You can criticize it. So that is the way that, or you can, you can have a high catch word. There are a list of verbs that are there in the public domain. If you write Bloom's taxonomy, then what are the appropriate words that you can use, and then you can use accordingly. Because some of the examiners were very critical that even student doesn't know, supervisor doesn't know that the way they develop these objectives is very, very basic. Even they can fail you actually. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, you must be mindful while you are preparing the objectives. Try to use the higher order thinking skills, not the lower ones. I think Mozaki, I addressed that question. Is there anything that you would like to? I think there's somebody is writing in my institution, PhD candidate. Gentlemen, I think Tokozani, can you just ask the question, open your mic and ask the question? Otherwise, I may be missing some of the point that you are trying to write here. So you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask the question. So that would be better, I think.
Yes, Frost, thank you very much for your
Slowly,
presentation. Yes, in our institution, a student has to publish one article before the degree complete decision. And we've been experiencing some supervisors, and we don't have a problem with that as supervisors. But now in terms of the copyright, as you know, South African universities, most of them, the copyright is staying with the university, and the thesis will be also on the website of our libraries. Now, students, one in particular, and it seems like a trend because other colleagues from different colleges are raising the same issue. They would like to publish their thesis, the entire document, to all these, publications as a book of some kind. What is your view? Because most of our institutions are keeping the copyright. What is your view, and what do you think we can do, maybe to work towards that kind of discretion that is being shown by our students, wanting to own their documents? Remember, in our institution, the other problem, a student can actually do a PhD for free. They get this fee remission. So a student will not pay even a single cent if a student can do that PhD within a period of 3 years, which means a 3-year throughput period. What is your view around that particular problem?
Thank you very much, Tokozani, for that question. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, that unfortunately, our the principals, higher education institutions, they operate with that kind of modality. That, like I said, it is your baby. No matter, it is always the case that you as a PhD or master student, you know your work better than us as supervisors or institution itself and anybody. So it's your hard work. There are a lot of sacrifices that you made and a lot of sleepless nights that you had, and that is very important. But because there is nothing we can do. But if you want to publish in the form of a book, I think I know that there are some students, they did publish in the form of a book. I think you can maybe, if you wanted to have a proper a permission from the institution, I think they shouldn't have any problem as such, because ultimately it is your institution name also will be mentioned there in the document, one way or the other way, directly or indirectly. I shouldn't see, or the institution shouldn't see that there is a problem there if you publish in the form of a book. Okay, there. So they should be allowed. You see, the publication is in generally that you need to disseminate your wisdom, your insights with as many scholars as possible. And you try to reach, many people actually through your research work. That is the purpose. And for instance, Marie Curie, who got 2 Nobel Prizes, one is in chemistry and physics. While she was doing her master's degree, she was being thrown away and she was being, ill-treated by her supervisor, master supervisor, but she didn't give up. And she worked steadily and firmly. And finally, her work was rewarded. Unfortunately, she died at the young age, maybe in early 30s, she died, 32 or so, she died. But until now, she's the only lady who got 2 Nobel Prizes, physics and chemistry, actually. What I'm saying is that your work, it should be, allowed for a good cause. You are not going to benefit anything if you just publish it in the form of a book, but you're trying to stretch your work into different corners. So I think there should not be a problem as such. That is my viewpoint, So, Tokajani, I hope I addressed that. I think you have been asked something else.
No. You have answered my question. Just a follow up on that issue, sir. If you publish the entire thesis, surely there will be a problem because you'll plagiarize yourself. Because now we'll have a full document on the university library. Then we'll have another thesis as a book. There will be 2 documents. But now there's another option. We can actually have articles like the scholarly chapters. I think that one can be the best option. But they don't take that best option because they might know how to write those scholarly chapters. But they insist on the first option. What do you think? Because if you look at it, a student will plagiarize usually on that first option because it's an entire document. There will be no change.
Yeah, that is correct.
It's just that now it will be taken to another person.
Tokajani, are you there? Are you done? Yes, dear, I think I lost you there, but it's fine. I do understand your question. You see, if you already have a thesis that is in the public domain, which is part of the repository of the institution where you did your degree or master's PhD. Now, if you take that entire document and you try to convert that document into a book and publish that same copy, what is already there in the public domain, so it is a duplication actually. Maybe you are having a book, but it is the same work. That's where they may object it. You see, the objection comes when there is a high element of plagiarism, that though it is your own work, but still it is a self-plagiarism. So that is where maybe you can ask the embargo rule that the institution can take the document out. Then you can tell that, you can acknowledge that this is the my PhD thesis, an extraction of the PhD thesis, or it's a verbatim of the PhD thesis. They are publishing in the form of a book. You just acknowledge it for safe side. So those are the 2 things that are safe. But the other thing, the third point of what you are saying is that articles would have been a better choice, because remember that if we publish an article with your institution name, our institution will get a substantial amount of subsidy from the government of South Africa. So that would be a credit for the institution. That is not only the credit, but you as a scholar. Now, Google Scholar picks up whatever you publish there. So you will be remembered there, and somebody else will cite your work, and they will make you alive. This is what I was telling you about. So therefore, I advise, I think scholarly publication will be more. Maybe some of them, they are not available in the public domain, but at least abstract or the title somewhere, somehow, it will have appeared in the public domain. But the visibility will be more if you publish in the form of a research article in a journal than you publish a book, or probably your dissertation is in the public domain. I hope, Tokazani, I answered your question. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are any other follow-up questions, I can take maybe a couple of other questions. I don't know, maybe Vinolia, you want us to have some more time, or it's almost 4:30. I don't have a problem. If the colleagues and students would like to engage with any kind of further clarifications, you're welcome to approach me. We can still have someone, maybe another 10 minutes, we can still discuss.
Thank you, Prof Ravinder. I just wanted to allow 2 more people, the last 2 people, to ask the questions before we close with the session, because I'm also looking at the time. We sort of running out of time a bit, but I'm going to give 2 more people. If there's anyone in the audience who want to ask a question, they can just unmute themselves and then go on with the question.
I saw there is a hand rose by Jonathan somewhere there. Jonathan, would you like to ask the question, or is it addressed that the question was already addressed in the form of other engagement? Jonathan, I think I saw your hand. Are you still around?
Yes, Prof. Yes, I'm still around, Prof. Thank
Yes.
you, Prof. Actually, you've answered so many questions already. And I was just also going to say that, actually, I was going to thank you and say that I'm so privileged to actually sit under you and listen to you, and also have a mentor like Prof. Amber. And when you hear what you're saying, and when you're with Prof. Amber, it's like, yeah, the world is just your playground. Well, you guys are
Thank you.
enlightening us, and you guys are really opening it so much for us, and it makes us want to just go on and become, you've set a standard, and we just want to reach that standard as well. That's basically what I wanted to say, and it makes us want to get to the high level, and we want to publish in a high impact journals. And when we get all these opportunities, I think if I had it 10 years ago, I most probably was going to be a high impact writer already, or researcher. And for the younger guys who get this opportunity, please do make use of Prof. Ravinder and all the other profs who are always giving this type of advice. Really, it's really helping, and to be a researcher, it's encouraging. Thank you so much for your time as well.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for those kind words. That's really, these are the things that will make us more motivated and more responsible also. Yeah. A colleague says Prof. Ambe Marcus is around, or any other, one more question or compliment or comment? So indeed, if there are no further questions from my side, I would like to thank everyone once again. And this is kind of a platform where we can engage in the discussion, and we learn from each other's perspectives actually. So it's important for all of us, and I would be always love to take part in these forums. Even in the 2023 is around the corner, but in the next year also we have some more programs that we would like to have, and we will definitely meet. Maybe one of the days, probably the pandemic is over now, we will meet face to face. So we'll definitely learn from each other's experience. There's one more comment, I think, yeah. Galaxy, I don't know. Gentlemen, thank you very much for all your comments, support almost for the last 1.5 years. You've been patient with me, and also, I wish you good luck wherever you are, whatever level that you have. But just remember that it is the patience. You shouldn't. The PhD means it is not the doctor of philosophy. P stands for patience, H stands for honesty, and D stands for devotion. And these are the things that you remember. If you remember these three things, you never go wrong. I think with this few words from me, and over to Vinolia. Thank you, one and all.
Okay, thank you so much for your wise words. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank you for making it possible to be here today. And I would also like to thank our audience as well for making this session possible. Without any waste of time, I'm just going to remind you guys that if you want a reference or any kind of referral with regards to this session for today, just go to our social media platforms, because the slides are not available. So you can just go to our social media platforms, and then you'll find this session recordings on those social media platforms. So without any waste of time, Prof. Ravinder, thanks once again. And to everyone, please enjoy your evening further and have a blessed day forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again. Bye for now.
Okay, thanks. Bye.